Hello, Happy New Year, Happy 2022, and the first episode of 2022 of this podcast, Mums on a Mission, with me, your host, Julie Hatch. And I am really, this is an episode just of me, and I'm going to say what I have to say with no guest to interview. And it's giving me an opportunity to really voice my desires for helping parents and for helping kids. And what I'm going to be talking about, it's not going to be very long, but what I'm going to be talking about comes from a book that is of mine that I've written that's coming out in either January or February. And it's called A Parenting Revolution for Higher Evolution, Raising Responsible, Resilient, Compassionate Kids from the Inside Out. So that's a mouthful, but I'm referring to it as a parenting revolution. And so my thoughts and ideas that I've gotten partly from traditional Chinese medicine, partly from my own experience, partly from Western medicine, are all in that book. So what I'm going to say today is a little bit, or actually, yeah, it's a little bit of what comes from the book. And then I'm going to talk about, I just was watching a summit called Superpower, and it's a summit all about kids and parenting, and they're completely in alignment with what I also believe and say. So I'm going to be reading a little bit about, or talking a little bit about what I heard at that summit. So to start with, I would like to say that our culture, for as long as we have been part of it, has sought to interact with kids in a way that is controlling and binding and constricting and selfish of us and egotistical of us, and at times is adversarial because we're trying to have control. We like to believe that we have our kids' best interests at heart, and for sure that we do, but we're going about it all wrong. We deal with our kids and we fix their issues and we make them into what we think they should be, what we want them to be and what we think they should be, all with good intentions, no doubt. But it's not quite the right way to do things. We take charge because somebody needs to be in charge, don't they? So it's going to be us. And yes, kids do need someone in control to keep them safe and alive. But beyond that, safety and being alive, they really only need guidance with a supportive touch. We think we know what's best for them, but we don't. Beyond survival, we don't know what's best for them. We don't always know what's best for them, and that can feel really uncomfortable for us. We're supposed to have the answers. We're supposed to know and understand everything about them and how their lives are meant to be. We think we're supposed to help them grow up in a particular way, which means with certain expectations. But in fact, kids come into the world with their own path to follow. They intuitively know how they're supposed to lead their lives in spite of what we think that we want for them. They intuitively know, and we want to allow them to follow that intuition rather than to follow the path that we have laid out for them. So kids come into this world from where? I don't know, but I am of the belief that they are a free soul who then incarnates into the body of our child. In traditional Chinese medicine, a child's essence, their element type, and their true nature are all formed at the time of conception. So their inner essence, their soul, I might call it, their true nature, the who they are at the core, what makes them who they are, is comes into existence at conception, which is also obviously when the physical body starts to develop, starts to form. So there are many different ways to think about where we all come from. But in any case, our kids, when they're born, are not just empty shells of a body. They have their essence and their soul. And those are what we are meant to parent. When babies are born, when they arrive here in our lives, they are the purest, truest form of themselves. They arrive connected to source from where they came as unadulterated, pure love. And that's what we want to nourish and cultivate and continue to parent. That unadulterated connection to source, their soul, their true essence, their spirit, whatever you want to call it. But what happens is that we then take over. We raise our kids. We mold them and shape them and turn them into something who we think that they should be or we want them to be, which means we are imposing ourselves into their pure natural essence. No matter our best intentions, we are still imposing us onto them. Instead, what if we just allow them to be themselves, be their essence, be their soul? We keep them safe from the worst of harm without overprotecting them, and that's great. But then beyond that, what if we allowed them to move and eat and speak and think in the way that they choose? Because they are so in touch early on with their essence, their truest selves, they know. They have the intuition of how to follow their life's path with not needing a lot of interference from us. This means that we would have to sit on our hands, not interfere, not direct, not force, not control how they live their lives. It would be a new way of doing things, but it would be a more truer to the child, what the child's essence needs. So now about the summit that I listened to on kids. It's called Superpower: Raising Children to be Our World's Peacemakers, which you will see runs parallel to my thoughts. They say that currently kids are beings for us to control, an extension of yourself to make them fit into your idea of the right mold. This pushes down their own needs and it ignores their own intuition. They do what they're told. What we should be wanting is not an accessory of us, not to mold them into what culture wants, but instead we want to attune and listen to the child, because a child knows what they need. They inherently know. There is a fundamental, organic, intuitive essence of kids. And really young kids, if you pay attention and watch them, you see that that is true. They have an intuitive, an intuition of themselves and how they want to be and how they should be. But instead, we allow society to define what is normal for our kids, a particular way to be with built-in expectations and obligations. This hinders growth. This hinders growth, meaning it keeps kids on the same treadmill of doing what is expected, doing life according to someone else's expectations and agenda. There is no growth of the child as a person, and therefore there is no growth of humanity. What is the opposite of this? Not being normal is instead being natural. What a great way to be. Authentic. Allow our child's authentic voice and personality and temperament to radiate. This is their true nature, which we talked about in the early beginnings of the podcast. The five elements represent true nature of a child. Now, as parents, what is our role? As a parent, I choose to feel comfortable by honoring my kids. There is no guilt or shame in honoring my true kid's essence. Much of life and many of our responses in life and in parenting comes from fear. They are rooted in fear. Fear of others' opinions, fear that something is going to go wrong, something of all the fear of all the what ifs. You could what if your way crazy throughout parenting life. But what if we leapt into love rather than fear? Along with encouraging our kids' authenticity, we need to be authentic as well, which means being honest, acknowledging that we screw up at times, and that we don't always know all of the answers. This is more honest and real way. It's a more honest and real way to be as a parent, because kids know. They know when we're being honest and authentic and when we're not. Can you admit to anyone, let alone to your kids, when you're wrong or when you just don't know? As parents, we are conditioned to think that it's our duty to be right and to get it right every time. But we have to let that go. We have to let go of that need to be right. Let it go and instead live with truth, transparency, and authenticity. It's a whole lot easier that way. It's so much easier just to live the authentic way rather than trying to be the parent that you think you're supposed to be, or trying to match up to the parents down the street or whatever. If you're just your authentic self, that is the best you that you're bringing forth to your child. That's the best kind of parent you can be. And of course, love. We always want our kids to feel that they are in a safe and loving space with us. And I talk a fair amount about role modeling for kids. I believe in showing our kids how to be, modeling good behavior. But in this summit, even that isn't exactly right, because that comes with expectations of what is the right way to be. And in some cases, this is perfectly fine. But in this summit, there came up a phrase called, which I really like, called soul modeling instead of role modeling. Show them how to live from their soul. And that means living authentically. All of the participants of this summit agree that the best way to raise our kids, to be parents to our kids, is to be present. Genuine presence, because it shows love and it shows caring. We want to let our kids know that we are listening to them. We are paying attention to what they say and what they do, and that all of what they say and do matters. We are present with them. That is one of the greatest gifts to our children. And we can't always be in a state of presence, no doubt, around our kids. It's very easy to get unpresent. Our minds and attention wander away and we start to react and life happens for sure. But at least being aware of when you're present with them and when you're not. And when we lose our presence with them, we just want to realize it, acknowledge it, accept it, and then try to get back to being present with them. And finally, I would say parents want to be open and allowing to learn from their kids. If we can pay attention to them, let go of our own agendas, we will see that we can learn a lot from our kids. They are here in our lives to teach us. Accept their wisdom, see their side of the story and their perspective. Listen, pay attention, and not only will you learn from them, you will be creating a beautiful relationship with them, not an adversarial or controlling relationship, but a beautiful co-creating relationship with them. So that is the fundamentals of how I feel about parenting and about kids and what we should be doing for kids, not to kids, but what we should be doing with kids and for kids. So that's the end of this episode. Thank you for being here. Join me again next week for another episode. I will have a guest on that episode. And if you want to learn anything more about my upcoming book or about me, you can find me at juliephillipshatch.com. And in the meantime, if you can share this podcast, let people know about it, give it a like, thumbs up, whatever you can do, that would be great. So happy New Year. Look forward to many more conversations in 2022 around kids and parenting, and have a good day.